Today, I bring you the first of a mini-series of episodes around relationships. I couldn't start them without my guest for today first, Matthew Hussey.
We're also struggling from a lot of wiring that's not our fault, but it's still preventing us from finding love today because we keep going down the wrong paths with the wrong people. So what a dating app can do is allow you to meet the person who goes to a coffee shop that you don't go to.
Yeah.
That to me is the major benefit. You need a builder. You can't be a solo builder working on the house,
Yeah.
and the other person is somewhere else.
Yeah. Oh, that's a very interesting definition.
You build together. That's a beautiful thing, is when we can do that. It really requires us to get out of ourselves and to not give what's easy for us to give because it comes naturally, but to give what perhaps is less natural for us to give, but is going to make the other person happy.
Welcome back. I'm still at my wonderful friend's studio, Kate Dowdy. Today, I bring you the first of a mini-series of episodes around relationships, which I have been waiting for a while, but I couldn't start them without having my guest for today first. So my guest today is Matthew Hussey, who started from a humble beginning, you know, being a life coach on the cafes of London, to being the coach of Christina Aguilera, then, you know, having half of the corporate world listening to his advice, including Hugo Boss and others. And today he's just talking to us. So, hey, we're doing well. The thing about Matthew is that in 2013, he had a New York Times bestseller called Get the Guy. And from there, he became more and more successful internationally with millions and millions of followers, with events that, changed the life of thousands of people at a time. Wonderful human being. In the studio today, we have his wonderful fiancée, Audrey, and my incredible ex-girlfriend and a true soul partner for me, Shelly. And their presence is to also show you what men do when they're afraid to say something that upsets the people they love. So if you find any awkward silences on my side, that's because I'm trying to I'm trying to find the exact words and to make sure that Shelly feels the love that I truly have for her. So with that, I think we're going to dive deep into relationships. You may not always like what you hear at those moments where you actually don't like what you hear. Take a note. It might actually be the one thing that you need to change. So, Matthew, you're here.
Thanks for having me, Mo.
It's been a while in the making. I am a secretive fan of the type that would, you know, like scream in the events in the background of your audience. But it's also because you tend to bring a very truthful point of view, very gently. And I think that's really wonderful. Love and relationships in general, I think, is one of the top 3 reasons for unhappiness in the world today. I attempted to write about the topic. I wrote a book called Finding Love 6 times, believe it or not. And on the 6th version, now 180 pages in, I decided not to publish it once again, right? Which basically is because I found it very, very difficult to pinpoint exactly where things go wrong. You seem to be quite adept with that. So if I would to ask you first at the beginning of our conversation, why is it so difficult? Why is the love and dating world today so difficult?
What a big question to start.
Yeah.
Well, firstly, Mo, I'm a huge mutual fan. I told you that as soon as I walked in. Audrey, my fiancée and soon-to-be wife, she introduced me to your work and your book. And Solve for Happy was a book that was, for me, profoundly important and actually holds one of the great keys to love and finding love, I believe. But it really helped both me and Audrey. So I want to thank you for that work.
I'm honored. Thank you.
Why is it so difficult today? I think it's a cocktail of factors. One of them being, if I start with one that I think you'll immediately latch on to. I think we're so overstimulated that we are, even if you know, I've been working on a book for the last year that's not done. And for the first half of working on that, I really struggled to sit down and write for more than an hour at a time.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
Really struggled.
Yeah.
And depressingly so. And I started to recognize that I was so overstimulated. And I read a book called How to Calm Your Mind by Chris Bailey that helped me with this. Really understood there's so many ways that I'm overstimulated in my life that sitting down to concentrate on one thing is really hard because, as he would put it, my stimulation height was too high. And to sit with anything, you have to lower your stimulation height.
Yeah, the distraction.
Yeah. And I think that there's a parallel there when it comes to love, that we are so used to our stimulation height being high that to sit with anything or anyone for long enough to really open up what's amazing about them, what could be amazing about the relationship between you, is really hard. Dating apps are, you know, when people talk about social media being like a slot machine, dating apps are too. You know, it's a very stimulating experience to be on there, and the dopamine hits are constant. So to actually wean yourself off of that and be on a date with someone and be present on that date, and to give that date a moment to breathe before you get straight out on the next one, it's tricky. You know, people don't, not everything that's wonderful about a person or could be wonderful about a person is immediately apparent to us. You know, even the way we shop on dating apps is a strange experience because we're far pickier there than we actually are in real life. Most people have had the experience of getting to know someone at work, and they didn't start by having a crush on that person, but they got to know them. They realized, I'm really comfortable with this person. At some point, someone did something. Maybe there was a goofy moment, a silly moment, a playful moment, a teasing moment. And someone that never was quite on their radar in that way, suddenly there was some attraction that was ignited. And that's happened to people with their friends. It's happened to people that you know tangentially in your circle. But what you had with them was some time for things to breathe and to see some different sides of them. Even on a date, you at least see someone animating. On a dating app, there's no animation.
Yeah.
And you know, it's why I think it's always funny, you know, when friends say, I had the most amazing date last night, and the friend's like, the first thing is like, show me a picture. And then you look at a picture and everyone's had the experience of their friend showing a picture of someone they had, who they said was really hot and they had an amazing time with, and they go, because they don't feel.
Did you check your eyesight recently?
Right, but the truth is, they were on the date, you weren't.
Yeah.
So aside from having different taste, the big difference is that they were there. They saw how that person moved and animated and interacted, and what was the idiosyncrasies that make someone attractive. That takes being in the room with someone, and sometimes it takes a little time. And being in the room is something we're not good at these days, and taking a little time is not something we're good at these days either, because we're looking for that quick thing that's going to be the answer. So I think that, and then of course the paradox of choice is a problem.
100%.
That's a real problem today. And then I think this isn't necessarily a problem of just our time, but it's a problem in general, is that I don't think we've really decided in our love lives what's most important to us. We're going in hoping to be made to feel something by someone. And usually the people that make us feel something, they're not always the best people. We put so much emphasis on feeling, but we can feel the most intensely about the biggest narcissist, about the person that we go on a date with and we go, oh my God, I felt amazing with that person. But, you know, certain people know how to give you an amazing date.
Yeah, of course.
They know how to be extraordinary. They know how to create fireworks. They know how to create maximum feeling. But maximum feeling isn't the same as someone who's going to be an extraordinary partner. And if we don't actually consciously say, what are the things I most require? What are the things that are the most important to me in a teammate? Then we're always just chasing.
Did you call them a teammate?
A teammate, yeah.
Interesting. Okay, we'll go back to that. Keep going.
I think we're always chasing feelings, and we haven't necessarily been engineered to be able to always trust the feelings we have. We've all had a childhood that, was probably less than perfect for a lot of us. We've all had early partners that were less than perfect in terms of what they trained us to be receptive to. And so our wiring actually can end up being kind of faulty, where we keep chasing things that hurt us, and we never actually learn to rewire what we're doing. And that I see as a massive problem, because then you can't even trust your compass anymore.
Yes, exactly.
People say, just trust your instincts. A boxing trainer of mine once told me, your instincts will get you killed.
Is that true? Yeah, that actually is a very interesting statement.
If in the ring someone throws a punch at you, your instinct is not to block or to slip. Your instinct is to blink. And blinking is not going to help you when a punch is coming towards you. In a riptide, your instinct is to swim as hard as you can back to shore, but your instinct could get you killed there, because you have to swim out of the current before you swim in again. It's a longer way, but it's a way that will save your life. And we have instincts in our dating lives that emotionally get us killed every time, because we think, oh, it feels right. I should go back. If it hurts this much to leave this person, I should go back to them. But those two, that's a non sequitur.
Yeah.
So I think that we're also struggling from a lot of wiring that's not our fault, but it's still preventing us from finding love today, because we keep going down the wrong paths with the wrong people.
That's a lot of depth there.
I apologize for the monologue.
I attempted to memorize all of them, because I think each and every one of those points needs to be addressed. You started from dating apps, and yesterday I was with the founder of Muz, the largest Islamic dating app on the planet. And Islamic dating is very different than dating, because Islamic dating has only one target theoretically, and the app is designed for that, which is to find a lifetime partner and start a family and so on. So, his first comment was, Muslims don't date, they marry. So sort of it's an app designed for long-term engagements, if you want, for those who are very religious on one side. But he made the same comment that you did, which he said that most dating apps are designed very much like a casino. It's a game more than a utility. So, the way you swipe, the rate at which they show you, a partner, a potential, a prospect that you would actually like is not every photo. If they know that they have 10 that you may be interested in, they're not going to show you the 10 right away. They'll show you 1 and then 3 not interesting ones, because you get the dopamine hit. If all 10 in a row, then there is no dopamine. It's like, okay, no, not this one, not this one. Oh, this is interesting. Maybe the next one will be interesting too, and then not this one, and so on. And that whole gamification of the apps is, in his words, and definitely for anyone who studied dating apps, is commercially oriented. They don't want you to find a partner. They want you to stay on the app. And when I was writing Finding Love, I have to admit I did a ton of research on apps just to find an engineering method to master those apps. And then eventually, when I decided to write about it, I said, don't be on dating apps. They're not the right way to find anyone. What's your position on it?
Here's the problem. I meet so many people who are now married and in relationships because they were on a dating app.
Interesting.
So I used to, early on, be a little bit more Luddite when it came to dating apps. So I really had my rebellion towards them. But I can't deny the fact that there are so many people who have found love that I think would have found love a lot slower, or it would have been a lot harder if they didn't have them. And where I really have a soft spot for dating apps is if I imagine someone coming out of a divorce, maybe in a later season of their life, they don't have single friends. Mm-hmm. They don't have a very active social life outside of their married friends. It's hard for them to go and just find communities to be in. And even if they found communities to be in, it's not easy to isolate who are the single available people in those communities. It's even harder to find out who are the single available people in those communities that are age appropriate and also want me back. All of that is a real challenge. There's a lot of layers. And you can spend a lot of time in your life trying to engineer a life that makes finding love possible in an analog way.
Very interesting.
So when someone can be at home after a tiring day of work and understandably not feel like going out and being out there in the world, and I relate to that as an introvert who half the time has to be dragged out of the house. Yeah.
You are.
100%.
You little actor, you. You come across as the opposite.
Like, I love people, and I love connecting. I always come away from a moment.
That's an introvert character. Love connecting is very different. Right. Yeah.
When I leave, Audrey will tell you this, I'm so glad I went.
Yeah.
But getting me there is not easy. So I really relate to that person who's in that position. If that person can come home after a long day, go on a nap and I met a woman just the other day. She's in her 60s now. Early in her 60s, she had decided she wanted to start dating again after years of being single, after her husband perhaps had passed, I can't remember. But she said, fine, I'll get on one of the apps. Reluctantly, she said this. Now, this is not the norm, but 15 minutes later, the first person she matched with, she's now married to that man and in a happy relationship. And for her,
apps are magic.
For her, apps are, it's extraordinary. It's hard to argue with that. But much like any other conversation about technology today, we are talking about a tool. And so long as, I said to you before we started, like I've really kind of eliminated so much of my phone addiction because my phone goes in a drawer now. I don't use it regularly. I check it a couple of times a day for messages. And I really do see it as a tool. Oh, I needed to come here to talk to you today. I'm going to use it for a map. But outside of that, I am not on my phone trying to check what's going on or check the latest news or whatever. I'm just not doing it. I don't want to do that to my brain. So I really am using it as a tool. If someone can isolate dating apps as a tool and say, I am just going to use them as a tool, that means I might have a certain time of day where I check it, or it could be a couple of times. But what I'm not going to be doing is just scrolling. I might have intentional moments where I message back and forth with people because I want to connect with someone and actually move the conversation along instead of always being reactive and talking to someone for 4 weeks and never ending up on a date, which doesn't serve me. If I can use it as a tool, then it can be a tremendous benefit because if I go, here's a good example. If I go to my local coffee shop every day, and that's like one of my outings, is I go to my local coffee shop. You probably interact with the same 10 people in that coffee shop every day if you're a regular.
Yeah.
You wave, hi, whatever. You know the faces. The love of your life could be going to one coffee shop over. And you never meet them because you happen to live on this street, not on this one. A dating app, to me, its greatest asset is that you might meet the person who goes to a different coffee shop than the one you go to.
But how do you find them?
So what a dating app can do is allow you to meet the person who goes to a coffee shop that you don't go to. Yeah. That to me is the major benefit. The enormous downside, if you don't really consciously monitor the way you use dating apps and you don't get intentional, is that what starts as a tool becomes a crutch. And also a fix, right? A crutch.
An addiction.
An addiction, 100%.
Yeah, I
an
remember
addiction.
vividly back in 2019, you know, when I started to research dating apps. I just moved to London. I was maybe, yeah, interested in dating, but I had this startup that was very demanding and so on. And, you know, I was doing the early research for finding love. And, you know, at the end of the day, I recognized very clearly that I went on dating apps when I was bored. It's like I'm sitting back home after a long working day, and it's like, yeah, it's interesting, like swiping on Instagram and getting interesting videos. You simply are just like, oh, she's cute. Oh, why is he here? You know, and it's simple, huh? And yeah, it's very, very unintentional and very wasteful, and almost in my experience, it's almost demoralizing, because after a while you go like, this is not working at all, and it's just there. I'm just there because I'm bored, right?
Yeah. It's a very demoralizing is a good word, because people burn out on those things, and this is what I mean by when we're not intentional, because I had to delete Instagram from my phone because I would realize, like, I'm 30 minutes into the Discover feed and I didn't even remember going on Instagram.
Yes, exactly.
So it would be like, how did I get here?
Yeah.
And nothing that I just did made me feel good. I'm leaving feeling worse than when I came.
Yeah.
And
but what is intentional on a dating app? How do you be intentional?
I think it's, if I'm bored, that's not a good reason to go on. If I'm going to actually seek connection and say, you know what, I'm going to figure out who here could I be attracted to feasibly, not who's the most attractive person on here, but who could I be attracted to?
Interesting differentiation, yeah.
And let me message them and have an intentional conversation, meaning see if I can have a fun exchange with this person, see if I feel like there's a kind of respect in the way that they message, you know, because you can't find out who a person is through message, but you can certainly find out if they're not respectful, or if there's a kind of energy there that gives you a warning sign. Is there a sense of progression? Because this is a very underrated word in dating in general these days, and in dating apps, is progression. I literally just had a woman on the street on the way here. A woman came over and said, I love your work, you know, you've really helped me, can I ask you a question? And I said, sure. She said, I'm seeing this guy, we've only met up twice, he's in another country, we text and we still talk. I think we had the most amazing connection on the date. I don't know if I'm imagining it, but I feel like we did. You know, is it pointless? And I said, it's not pointless if there's progression. But has there been any progression? Progression can mean many different things. Progression can mean we've been texting and now we're on the phone together and we actually speak regularly. And we're actually hearing our voices, or we're FaceTiming. We're actually in each other's lives a little more. Progression is that this person and I decide that we're going to meet again and make a plan. And by the way, that the plan isn't just that I come to them and deliver myself to their doorstep. There's some kind of, we both have some skin in the game and we both have to put in a little effort. Progression is, if we did that, are we planning on the next time that we're meeting while we're together, or are we just seeing what happens again? If it stays the same, then that's a form of closure. People need to start seeing an unevolving story as closure in itself.
Yeah.
And that's not what happens. People see an unevolving story as a story without an ending. And I still am trying to get to the ending.
Spot on.
So on dating apps, to me, intention is, let me be intentional about looking for stories that evolve. And if I notice that stories aren't evolving, if 3 weeks later I'm still texting someone who shows no signs of asking me on a date, or if I say, let's go meet up, they also are kind of elusive and busy and whatever. Let me start seeing that as closure instead of seeing it as one more open thread in my love life.
But then, you know, I think this is a sign of, I'm afraid I'm going to lose them. They might be, again, it's part of the gamification of, you know, just one more, you know, draw on the slot machine, and maybe that is the one that's going to work, right? And it's very difficult, and you can see that fear in so many other ways, like, you know, especially my lady friends who are on an app or going dating because they want to start a family, for example, and they are afraid to ask the question, are you interested in starting a family? And you ask her why, and she says, oh, because maybe I'd scare him away. And I'm like, yeah, isn't that the intention, right? Can we progress to finding out if this is on the cards or not, right? So there is that fear constantly, even though the market, in my economic view, is a market of supply, because there are so many opportunities out there. People behave like buyers, and they think that this is the only person that they'll ever meet.
Yes. Well, you know what's interesting? When I hear what you just described, I hear people behaving only like sellers.
Mm. Yeah, exactly.
Because if I'm always in sell mode, I'm not worried about whether you can give me what I want. I'm just worried about getting you. And that is a mode that, when we're insecure in our love life, when we feel like we don't have options, when we feel like time is running out, when we want a family biologically and our window is closing, we start going into sell mode, because we're just like, I just need to try and get someone.
Anyone take it off the shelf. Yeah.
Yeah. And buying implies that I go into this with a set of requirements, and that if those requirements are my filter for how much I invest. So many people, as you rightly point out, are not doing that. I have the people that come to me who are 35 and talk to me about how they want marriage and kids, and they're currently entertaining a charismatic 22-year-old. Okay, maybe you found the one in a however many hundreds of thousands of 22-year-olds who are ready, they're in the same place you are, and they don't just think they are right now, but they're going to stay there in 10 years. Maybe. Or maybe right now this is just a distraction, and it's actually taking you away from a path that's really important to you, because it feels fun to have something. Here's a big one. For so many of us, we have this bigger goal of what we want, but then something comes into our love life. Someone. And maybe we haven't had attention in a while. Maybe we're feeling lonely. Maybe we're feeling anxious. And this person presents as a distraction, fun, maybe sexy. There's the, addictive kind of romance period of it all. And so we settle for the drug, because the drug just takes us out of our fears for a moment. It won't keep us out of our fears. The longer we take that drug, the more we'll get anxious and we'll worry, and we'll realize they're not in the same place we are. And now we can't get to sleep at night because we're worried that we have misaligned intentions, but we don't know how to bring it up to this person because we're worried if we bring up our intentions, they're going to go away. It's a kind of user's mindset of like, I need my fix, and I don't want to give up my fix by saying what I really want, because I just can't bear to go back to the painful feelings I'll experience if I lose whatever story I have in my love life right now, because at least it's a story. If I don't have a love story at all going on, then what do I have? Just myself. So people will settle for a love story instead of what they really want, because at least a love story is something. And I really empathize with that, because that's a hard thing to say no to. It takes such strength and knowledge of what you want that to have something alluring, attractive, interesting present itself, and to still say no because it's actually not the thing that I'm looking for. That's hard. And my view of seeing endless numbers of people going through this and making decisions based on that is that the only time people tend to actually change and start getting very, very intentional about who they let into their lives is when they have undergone enough pain that they say, this doesn't work.
Yeah.
To me, the beginning of change is not belief. We spend so much time, especially in the self-development industry, on the power of belief. But for me, when I witness human nature, belief is actually rarely the impetus for change. Necessity is the impetus for change.
Interesting, yeah.
You know, the Plato said, our need will be our real creator. Yeah. When we get to a place of, I can't stay this way anymore, it's too painful, I keep dating these people that don't give me what I really want, that don't really commit, that don't want what I want. And every time I come away from it, I get my high, and then I come away from it hating life, hating myself, hating this person, feeling worse than when I came to this relationship. When people have enough of that pain, there's often a moment where they realize that the drug is no longer working, and that I can't settle for any less than the standard that I'm setting for myself for what I really want, and nothing entertaining can distract me from that, because it's now a deeper standard that's founded on the knowledge that doing the other thing never works for me.
So I think that's very profound. I think that in my mathematical mind, I think this is the core of where things go wrong. Because if you say that there are 10 people in your vicinity that you may be able to accept to be, to belong to one of, but there are 100 people that you can choose from, every one of those 100 people that you get into that adventure with takes 6 to 8 months of your life, and we don't have those many years, right? It's by definition, from the texting to the, romance, to the high, to the realization, to the breakup, to the, mending of your heart, to your getting ready is 8 to 18 months sometimes. And each of those cycles, if you're in your 30s, basically gives you 5 of those, right? And from a dice point of view, if you're trying to find 10 in 100 people, then you need 5 throws of the dice if you're lucky. And it just becomes very unlikely, because you're wasting time, and your time is the most interesting thing. And yet, I think most people, I don't know how to say that, are deluded by Hollywood and by their one friend that happened to find that thing work, right? Like, I used to have a person that tells me, but he was a world famous opera singer, and she was a new student of opera, and then they got together, but he's like 60 years older than her, or whatever the numbers are, and look, it is possible. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, how many other opera singers do you know that had that experience? It's one, and one is not a proof of a trend at all. So how do you change that mindset of, even though your best friend ended up, being picked up on a white horse somehow in the middle of the Sahara Desert, and then got married in a beautiful wedding, that's the only time that has ever happened, and that's not a trend at all.
You have to, I think, get to a point where you say, I was talking about this in the context of, in business, there are certain employees along the way that it's not been working out with.
Yeah.
And I have in the past suffered.
Oh yeah.
Trying to figure out, what am I supposed to do here? Do I let this person go? It's not working out. There's a chance that more conversations might make it better. I already had 5, but there's a chance that next month is the month where they turn it all around, and that I just haven't quite communicated it the right way yet. And I said to an advisor of mine once, what if I'm wrong, and what if this person turns out to be, great? And he said, what if you were speaking to your clients, the people that come to you for help in their love lives, what would you say? And I said, I mean, I'd say that the chances of them changing are 1 in 100. Yeah. And he said to me, well, here's the view I take, Matt. I'd rather lose the 1 in 100
Then wait.
Than have
the 99.
The 99
yes, exactly.
Potentially slow down, cause disruption, or even chaos in my business.
Yeah.
I'd rather lose the 1. And in our love lives, I think that's the mindset that we actually have to take on, is that love is hard because love is one of those things that we need a teammate for. So we can't on our own guarantee its arrival in our lives or guarantee it's staying in our lives. That's hard. That already puts us in a place that we're not comfortable with, which is one we can't control. We can control our bodies to a large extent. If we want to go and lose weight, we know the certain things we can do, the levers we can pull. In our love life, we know all the things what I coach is all the things you can do to influence the result.
But you can't guarantee the result.
But I think that we can create inevitability on a much greater level than we ever realize.
I agree.
And the enemy of that inevitability is chasing the 1 in 100 result.
Correct.
Because as you say, you know, if the right person is number 35, and this is speaking crudely, but if they're number 35, and what has to happen is you need to get through the next 34 to get to that 35. If you get stuck on number 3, you're screwed. Yeah. And that's why there has to be, people have to start looking at that in their mind and going, and by the way, I've got no problem with people changing. This is what I always try to help people understand, is that when people say, but maybe they'll change, fine. The burden of proof is, like if they're changing, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
I totally agree.
They're not changing, which is why we're having this conversation, and you're forced to defend this position that they may one day change. If they were changing, everything would be fine. They're not changing. Yeah. And, you know, as my friend Dr. Ramani puts it, you know, in the case of certain people, they're so far from where you need them to be.
Yeah, that it takes years of change.
You know, if they changed by 1%, it still wouldn't even be close to what you need. And there's a lovely way that she puts it, which is that consider how hard it is for you to change anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Consider how hard that is. It is the idea that, you know, Yumo could suddenly stop being a thoughtful person or a compassionate person.
Or grow hair.
Or grow hair.
There you go, right? It's possible, by the way.
It's possible.
If I really invest in it, it's possible, but would I, right?
Right.
Yeah, I think that's the whole point.
That when we realize, every year I want to be in the best shape of my life. But when every year it turns out to be way harder than I ever thought, and I really want to. Yeah. So now you're dealing with someone that probably doesn't even want to.
You know what, my crude, very harsh mathematics, when you say 1 in 35, I picture 2 dice, right? The chances of getting double 6 is 1 in 36, okay? And, you know, I find that people sometimes throw a 4-3 and they go like, yeah, but it's just 2 steps away from the 6. And like, maybe if I just keep pushing the dice a little bit, they will turn and be 6s, right? And how often have you ever seen that? It's just realistically unattainable, and you're stuck in that 4-3, getting a 7 instead of a 12, by the way, which is almost 60% or 55% of what you need in your life. And you're just hoping that one of the dice will tilt and you'll get what you're looking for.
That, what you just said is profoundly important, because when we're telling ourselves we're close, we usually are not close.
At all.
No. What we mean is that we found someone that we really enjoy talking to, and let's say we have amazing chemistry with them. But it turns out that person is a horrible teammate. They are not someone who is kind. They're not someone who shares your vision for the future. They are terrible in arguments. They don't think of you when you're not around, or they don't anticipate your needs at all. So when someone says, "Oh, if they could just be this," what people have to understand is that if you're missing something that's fundamental to what you need to feel peace within a relationship, then you're about as far off as you can be. The fact that you have chemistry, I always talk about there being 4 stages of importance in a relationship. There's admiration, which is literally, you can know someone and admire them. It doesn't mean that they've noticed you. It doesn't mean that there's any attraction. It just means that you from afar feel an attraction for them. Not important. The second one is mutual attraction. Okay, now you're aware of my existence. I'm attracted to you, you're attracted to me. We call this chemistry, we call this sense of connection, but physical attraction. But okay, great. So there's a mutual draw there. It's necessary for a relationship, but this stage is not an important stage in the sense that you still don't have nearly as much as you think you have. Because the next stage is commitment. We have mutual attraction, but we're both, on top of that, saying yes.
Yeah.
Right? Very important stage. The number of people that grieve over being in stage 2 and not having that person, I sometimes want to say to people, so many tears are wasted on this stage. If you were in love with someone and you had the most amazing relationship and you both were committed to each other, and then that person gets hit by a car tomorrow, that's a tragedy. That is worth your tears. But when you like someone or love someone and you can't be together, apparently because of them, and you're not with them, and I'm not with the love of my life, and they're shopping in Target today. They're watching a movie. They exist. Yeah. They're on the planet. They're just not choosing you. Yeah. So you don't have that crucial third stage, which is commitment. And then the fourth stage, and this is the one people forget, because when people say, "Oh, we have commitment," that's the kind of love is all you need mindset, right? As long as we're committed, as long as we say yes, that's all we ever need. But you also need compatibility. Yeah. And compatibility is a much ignored fourth stage of importance, which is why people get into so much trouble, because there are plenty of people who have said yes to each other and then found out that their values are very different.
Or seasons.
Seasons are very different. Yeah. The way they want to live their lives is very different. And so they're just not, it doesn't work. And saying yes doesn't make it work. Saying yes is that, okay, we're entering into this. But now we find, if your idea of what you want to do with your life is you want to go out clubbing till 5 a.m. every night. My thing is I want us to wake up in the mornings and go and hikes and do this and do that. And because of that, we never see each other and we don't respect each other's way of life. Then we may have said yes, but we're making each other miserable. Yeah. So those 4 stages are all important. What I try to encourage people to do is stop I'm not saying level 2 isn't a prerequisite for a successful relationship, but stop obsessing over level 2.
But it's intoxicating. Level 2 is just, oh my God, like so much joy, so much excitement, so much endorphins, so much fun, so much discovery. And a lot of people will just find themselves in that stage and say, that's it.
Yeah, but we don't give like a special significance to heroin.
Yes, we don't.
Do you know what I mean?
I'm talk to them.
But it's not like we look at certain things, certain addictions or drugs or whatever. We don't look at them and go, oh, if it really hurts that much to give up this drug, maybe you should go back to it. We don't say that.
Such a good way of saying it.
But in love, we give things a kind of transcendent, righteous label of experience where we put them in a special category. And I do
like rare heroin. It's not just heroin.
This is special.
This is a very that dealer only made 4 of them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just, to me, and I don't mean this quite as literally as it sounds, but it's just another set of chemicals, and it is very intoxicating. For sure it is, and my God, do I sympathize with? I had someone come to me and say, like, nothing has happened in my love life for a long time, and the idea of just waiting around for something to happen, at a certain point, I might as well just enjoy the quick fix because it's all that's coming along. So, who are you to tell me I shouldn't enjoy the quick fix? I kind of understand that.
Yeah.
At a certain point.
What would you say to that?
I think you have to be honest with yourself about whether the quick fix is serving you on the level that you really think it is. Because I think there's a lot of lying to ourselves that we do. That, if we're not careful, it becomes an excuse to settle, and it becomes a bit of a cop-out, because everyone is capable of finding the kind of love that they want.
You believe so?
I do. I think it comes with some honest, what's the word? I think that people have to be willing to say, it doesn't always come in the exact package. It doesn't always come, to me, part of growing up is that all those things that you thought you needed, when a woman says, I want him to be 6'2", at a certain point you start saying, this is ridiculous.
Totally.
It's not going to make me happy.
Totally.
But the longer we hold on to all of those things, the longer we keep ourselves unhappy. And to me, everyone can find the kind of love that they want. But at a certain point, we have to start asking ourselves to define more carefully what that kind of love actually means. Because if we hold on to our fantasy idea of every little thing that we wanted or were trying to get, that's what makes people incredibly unhappy. Yeah. And that's no, the same is true anywhere in life. If you look at people starting businesses, one of the struggles for a lot of people starting businesses is they apply the mindset of the one that they apply in their love life. They apply that to business too.
Yeah.
Like people sometimes say to me, like, Matt, it's so nice for you, you've found your calling in life. And I understand what they're saying, but I almost always want to push back when they say that, because really what I found is a career that exercises my abilities, that I had some raw talent in and nurtured that talent into something that was useful, that I enjoy, that gives me variety. It meets a lot of my criteria. This is not the only path that could have met my criteria.
Correct.
It could have been several different, it couldn't have been anything, but it could have been many more things than this one.
Yeah.
But when I see people trying to start businesses and they're looking for this idea of like the one in business, what's the business that when I start it, I'm suddenly going to feel like everything just fell into place and it's exactly what I wanted. No, it's messy and it won't come exactly in the form that you wanted, and the business won't be exactly what you anticipated, and you'll have to do things that you didn't want to do, and that's what it's like. And over time, you sculpt it into something that gets closer and closer and closer and closer and closer to the ideal of the way that you want to work and the way that what you want to create. And to me, love is no different. Life will punish us, I think, if we go into love with this kind of like wide-eyed feeling of I want all of these things. If instead we go, no, what's the kind of partnership I'm looking for? And am I, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you could be with anybody, you can't. But does this person, are they made of the right stuff? Okay, interesting, maybe something could work. Am I attracted to them? Because I need some attraction. Mm-hmm. Attraction isn't, by the way, attraction is not a sport that someone has to win. You know what I mean? It's not the Olympics. It's a box that needs to be ticked.
Is it?
Am I attracted to this person? Great. That I tick that box.
Do you know how many people live for that sport? It's just
For
crazy
sure.
when you think about it.
But we have to suspect ourselves if that's the only sport we seem to be living for. Because, okay, let's say in a successful relationship, what boxes need to be ticked? Well, okay, one is physical attraction. Or I even think sexual attraction is more important. Like, do you feel like there's a sexual chemistry there? The other, let's say another one might be, we feel like we're loyal to each other. Okay, great. That's another box that needs to be ticked. We are compassionate towards each other. We accept each other. All of these are boxes that need to be ticked. When people go out and are constantly playing the sport of, is this the most attraction ever? I want to ask, are you doing that with all the other boxes?
Uh-huh.
Are you also saying, is this the most compassion I've ever felt? Are you also saying, is this the most loyal I've ever felt someone? Are you also saying this person is the most supportive?
Exactly.
Because if you're not trying to make someone win the sport of those ones, but you're always trying to make them win the sport of this one, that immediately suggests that you're not actually looking for a genuine, amazing partnership. There's something else going on. It's egoic. It's,
Definitely.
I want to be seen with someone, a certain kind of person. It's, you know, there's a shallowness to that. And I think that we pay the price for that.
Let me try to organize this a little bit. Are you saying that you used the term the love of my life several times, right? You know, you're going to find the love of your life. You're going to find the love of your life. I tend to disagree that there is such a term.
The love of my life.
The love of my life. As you rightly said, it is often described by terms and conditions that are not really necessary. 6'2" is like, I'm not 6'2", so anyone who has a 6'2" on their list should change that. Okay,
I wouldn't make the cut.
Yeah, honestly, but the idea I mean is that's very shallow. Right? It's and so that long list of things is also not the answer. So it's not the love of my life as like the only one in 7.8 billion that will suit me, but it's also not the list of 16 or 17 or 29 things that make it become impossible. What you're saying is it is a set of experiences that you're looking for that need to be balanced and work together. Okay, but at the same time, you're also saying, and you shouldn't compromise on some of them, that some of them really, really matter more than others. What does that mean? It means that people who believe that there is one person that can meet what they're looking for are wrong, but you know that there are 200 people in your neighborhood that can meet what you're looking for. Just compromise a little?
I think it means that the love of your life isn't found, it's created.
Oh, that's so beautiful. It really is.
I truly mean it, because I think that of those 200, there might be 200 people in the neighborhood who have genuine kind of raw materials to be a great partner, but not all of them are going to go the distance with you. You know, cut that down to 50, or not all of them are going to have the same drive to build something beautiful that you are. It kind of is self-fulfilling. This is why I have a problem with people looking backwards at what they've lost and going, I lost the one, I lost the love of my life. I always think, and I understand your discomfort with the term love of my life, because I agree with that. I think there's an oversimplification, and it can be a dangerous one in terms of expectations. But when we say, I lost the love of my life, to me, it's like, the contradiction is within that sentence. That the person that is right for you will choose you. The person that you have an amazing life with, you'll build an amazing life with. It won't be the person that didn't want you, the person that was almost there. It will, by definition, be the person that becomes that person. So the finding the person that should be a thing that you say about the person that you have built something with, not the person you almost built something with, not the person you could have built something with.
But isn't that the same confusion that leads people to stick around too long? You know, it's like, I need to build that love of my life relationship. So, you know, I might
You need a builder. You can't be a solo builder working on the house.
Yeah.
And the other person is somewhere else.
Yeah. Oh, that's a very interesting definition.
You build together. If the other builder is AWOL, that's not you. That's you lying to yourself. So it's not just that you're valuing the house that gets built at the end of it. You're valuing, above all, the builder who builds it with you. And so that, to me, is the big distinction. How much is this person invested in this? How much are they trying with me? How much are we building it together? You don't get to just try on your own and be the person holding everything together and say, we have something really special. What happens if you stop putting in the effort for the both of you? Yeah. You quickly find out
the project
what you really have.
Yeah. So what you're saying here is that there is a set of criteria that is sort of like a mandatory, like you need to have those to start building. And once you have that, the only measure of a potential loving, lasting relationship is that you're both invested and working on it together.
Correct. 100%. And there are certain things that you just can't, certain things, if they're not there, no amount of another quality should supersede them. Just because you feel alive when you're with them and you've never felt this way before should not supersede the fact that this person becomes distant for 3 weeks when you leave the date, or that you never know where you stand, or that they won't even admit to the fact that you're in a long-term relationship together. Like that, it shouldn't, no amount of something exciting should supersede those baseline qualities that are important. If a streaming service or a TV company came to me and offered me the biggest show of my life, all about Matthew Hussey, and offered me all the money in the world, none of that would matter. No matter how exciting it might sound, none of that would matter if the format of the show was something that I didn't like. If I thought, oh, this is cheesy, or, oh, this is going to make me do things that I don't want to do.
You do amazing on Naked Attraction. Would you take that?
I would rather do Naked and Afraid than Naked Attraction. Was that Naked and Afraid is where they get dropped in the middle of the forest and they just have to survive?
At least you can run somewhere and hide, right?
At least I would have my dignity at the end.
What is that, by the way? How can humanity reduce I don't mind saying Naked Attraction is shit. Like, seriously, right. People, what's wrong with humanity? How did we decline so far?
Look, you're speaking to someone who cannot be brought to watch any of these shows.
Yeah.
I can't watch 5 minutes of them because well, for one, I think when you've been in TV at all, you know that all that's happening here is a bunch of producers got together and said, what's the next show that we can get people addicted to? Yeah. You know, that's all it is. And usually the contestants of those shows have either got an ulterior motive, like they want to be a singer, and being naked and, on a show might be a way to raise the profile for being a singer, or they have been manipulated into thinking it's a good idea for them.
Yeah.
And neither one I find a compelling reason to watch. Yeah. But I think that there's, we have devolved into like weirder and weirder and weirder concepts because dating shows have become so insane. Yeah.
It's that just the weirder you are, the more
you need something crazy to trump it. This was before I moved to the States. I was in a production office in London for a major production company, and the show being pitched to me was like, I think it was an early version of The Undateables. There's a show right now called The Undateables, which, by the way, just the wickedness is in the name of that show. Yeah. But the earliest version of that show, I think I was pitched to be like a host of. And they said, we're going to get someone who is, you know, this, and someone who is that, and someone who's that. And all people that they have decided for some physical reason that as a viewer we can instantly see, it was like a circus for them. Oh. And we're going to see if we can pair them up with each other to find love. And
that's crap.
And I remember them trying to sell me on how this show was doing a good thing, because what it was doing was it was showing that anyone could find love. And I went, no, that's not why this show's being made. Yeah. This show is not being made with the motive of showing that anyone can find love. It's being made because, you know, in the trailers, you're going to be like, imagine if this person could find love. Or imagine if this person dated this person. How crazy would that be? It's you running this circus. And I remember I had such distaste and disgust for it, because I just thought, all this is, you know, how can we create something that degrades people, or that makes fun of them, or that highlights how ridiculous or awful people can be for your entertainment, and call it finding love? And that for me is I've always had a deep kind of more of an issue with that than most people seem to have. I struggle with it.
I think this is perhaps, in my view, one of the reasons why love is becoming, you know, love and finding love is becoming so complicated. It's because there are so many views that are shared around the topic, so many choices. You know, you called it the paradox of choice. I don't know if you've read that book, but there was a book called The Paradox of Choice that completely flipped my life upside down. You know, the idea that, you know, having hundreds of drinks at Starbucks doesn't make you any happier at all. You know,
it's a disaster.
It really is. Yeah. And so from between the one extreme of the love of my life, one person in, you know, in 7.8 billion, to the other extreme of endless choices in terms of endless kinds of people, endless configurations, endless types of love, endless messages that are getting into our heads saying, yeah, you know, this kind of attraction is the way it should be, that kind of attraction is the way it should be. And if you end up with someone on an island somewhere and, you know, we keep you there long enough, you're bound to find love, or it's crap. All of that madness is also very confusing. I mean, from one side, the adamance that it's only one, and that one will show up without me doing anything on a white horse, to the other side of I have to try 14,000 approaches until I find someone.
Well, the former actually has you self-destructing on the latter. So
Interesting way of looking at it.
If you're led to believe that there is one person out there for you, the stakes become impossibly high of trying to find that person, and a person that lives up to that idea. And then you present me with all of this choice. It's a recipe for disaster, because I'm going to be with this person, but I'll go, but they don't have this thing, and maybe they're not the one. And then I switch them out for this one. Oh, maybe they have more of this, but they don't have this now. They're not the
6'2", no, they're not 6'2", and you know.
Exactly. You know, they don't have enough hair, or they don't have enough this, or they had. I was just
nobody says that.
You know, we all have those things in our mind. None of us are above vanity. None of us are above egoically wanting certain things. You know, but at a certain point, once you realize the one is something that is arrived at, not started with, then
that's very profound.
It forces us into a place where we commit to making something great. And that's where we have abdicated responsibility in our love lives, is that we're trying to find something great instead of taking responsibility for making something great. And I don't mean trying to make it work with someone who's not nice to you, who's abusive, who's this. No, I mean finding someone with the right raw materials, and then you commit to making something great together. That to me is the thing that gets lost in all of this, in the constant search for someone who's very passive. Someone's going to come along and they're going to make me feel. They are going to make me feel everything I've always wanted to.
I find that to be the polarity between the feminine and the masculine, right? So the feminine is a state of being where I'm supposed to be some, you know, in some form or shape. And if I am that way, then the universe and the energy will resonate and everything will happen, right? That's the feminine side. The masculine is all about, I need to do. I need to go out hunting. I need to swipe. I need to go on multiple dates. I need to explore. I need to. And I think neither is right, honestly. There is a bit of each of those in terms of, you know, yes, you have to be a certain way, because if you go out hunting for the rest of your life, but you're an asshole, you're never going to find anyone. You need to work on yourself and be a good person first. And if you're the most amazing human on the planet, but you're just being and waiting for the white horse, there are not many of them left in the country that you live in. So, you know, probabilities-wise, it's not going to show up.
Yes. Well, and that energy that makes you kind of hunt is... It's kind of an optimizer's, in a sense, like there's a sense of, especially type A people or whatever, there's a kind of optimization brand to that you see in a lot of self-development, right? A lot of self-development is about optimizing my life.
Yeah.
And optimizing only works to a point in love. You know, you can optimize your way out of ever finding love, or you can optimize your way out of every relationship by going, oh, this person has these things, but I still feel like I could get these things and this. So you try and optimize for that, but then you realize that what you're dealing with here is not a product that you've just added a feature to, but another complete human being who has deficits that this person didn't. And so you can spend a whole life optimizing in that energy that will preclude you from ever being happy where you are. I don't know if did you read the book 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Burkeman?
No, I didn't.
Lovely book. The Oliver Burkeman's kind of history.
About your life.
It was about time management. Well, his background is kind of productivity and time management, but this book is more of a book about life that poses as a book about time management. But it's 4,000 weeks is the average length of a human life. And what he says is the reason that we put too much on our plate is because we're afraid of death, essentially.
Correct, yeah.
That if we truly got honest with ourselves about how little time we had to live, it would force us to go, what's actually most important for me to do? What books are most important for me to read? Because I'm not going to read the whole bookshelf. I don't have time. What movies are most important to watch? What work is most important to do?
What guests should I have on my podcast? Should I continue this conversation? You're wonderful, so yes.
You can't have them all, you know, so I'm honored. Either that or you're overloading your plate, one of the two.
I know,
but
this is the best.
That idea really struck me that, oh my God, me overwhelming myself is not just some sign that I'm a type A person who wants to keep doing more and more. It's actually a denial of mortality. It's a denial of how little time we have. And so what he says, therefore, is we have to start making real choices about what we want to do and who we want to spend our time with, because those choices matter. But he goes a step further in saying that once you get to that point, the stakes then feel impossibly high, because you're like, well, if I'm not going to read 1,000 more books, if I'm only going to read 100 more,
that's
oh my God, which
thought.
Books do I read?
Absolutely.
It suddenly becomes, and what he says is that the way you lower the stakes is that you realize that the experience of life that is going to be the best one is the one that you really lean into. And I think of it not in terms of settling for, but settling on. There's a big difference between
Dan
those two
Gilbert's
things.
synthetic happiness, sort of. It's like, you know, if you end up with a piece of art, you start to love it. It doesn't matter if it was exactly what you wanted or not. You know, if his experiment was to give participants five pieces of art and say, which one would you like a print of? And people will say, this is my favorite, this is my second favorite. And, you know, he would give them the second favorite. And the question was, you know, you did get the second of 5, but you didn't get the first. And how can you really enjoy, you know, can you create that synthetic happiness if you want?
Yes.
Yeah.
And leaning into the piece of art that we got, that is settling on something and resolving to make it the best thing that you can make it. And that's what he argues is where true happiness comes from. I mean, it's no different to going on vacation. You could go anywhere on vacation.
Yeah.
What's the best place to go? The best place to go is the one that you really commit to.
Yeah, and enjoy when you get there.
Exactly. Like
such an interesting view, Matt.
My friend is a director in Los Angeles, and he would be invited because of his movies to Cannes. And I said to him, "What's Cannes Film Festival actually like?" And he said, "You always have this feeling. You could be in the greatest party ever, and you still have this feeling there might be a better party going on somewhere that you're not invited to."
Yeah.
And that, to me, is the essence of unhappiness in love, right? Is that if you can't train yourself out of that mindset, that there is always another party that could be better, then you're going to be unhappy. If you can lean in and go, no, I'm going to turn this into the best party that I could ever have. That, to me, that's the difference between walking into a room and saying, who's here? And walking into a room and saying, I'm here.
Oh, fabulous. The mathematics of this, however, is very complex.
I always love when you go into the mathematics of things.
I apologize.
I want you to be, you know how like on some TV channels, they have the person doing the talking and then they have the person signing.
Yeah.
I want you, whenever I go on tour, I want you just be a little Mo on the side of the stage that is drawing the equations of what I'm saying as I'm speaking.
That wouldn't be necessary. All I would need to do is to wait for like every 7 or 8 minutes and then wave a number for the mathematicians. I'll say, he said 42, and we will all figure it out, right? You know.
But tell me, I don't want to interrupt.
The mathematics is very interesting because imagine if it's not just can, but if you also know that if you go to Monaco, there is a whole other set of another 100 parties. You know, that now it's not, the choices is not 1 in 100, it's 1 in 10,000, right? Because the varieties, if you just keep going, becomes endless, right? And I think what's been happening in our world, and you know, it's a sensitive topic, so you can choose not to talk about it, is that the type of relationships has also, it's not just that you're choosing a person, a teammate, as you called it, but for which game, for which sport. Right? And, you know, 60 years ago, the only sport out there was one man, one woman, committed, you know, happy, what is it called? Holy matrimony for the rest of your life. That doesn't seem to be the case at all anymore. There are endless forms of engagements. I mean, you go to Gen Z and the primary, you know, 75% of every Gen Z is more interested in hooking up than they are in having a deep relationship that is long-term and committed. And yeah, life is seasons and it changes and it continues, and one day they might choose another, you know, style. But, you know, just the number, I don't know how to say that diplomatically, but just the number of people in a relationship is a third layer, right? So do I want to have one person or one type of person in hookups, or do I want to have 2 of them? Or are we going to be 4 of them? Or are we going to be swingers? And, you know, all of those are now, interestingly, on the table for the permutations and for the calculations of how many endless possibilities are in that paradox of choice.
That paradox of choice exists in every aspect of life, from where we want to live to what we want to do for work to who our friends are. And you're right. I think that My answer to that would be that so much of happiness lies in stepping outside of the mimetic culture of like, what am I being told is good to do or right for me versus what do I actually enjoy based on my kind of DNA.
But how do I know that if I haven't tried?
Well, and then to that extent, I don't think it is easy for a 22-year-old to know what they want, which is why you shouldn't, if you're serious, date a 22-year-old. You know what I mean? But
something about 22s with you.
No, but that I believe that because it's they don't know what they
absolutely
they haven't cycled through those experiences
yet. I know 55-year-olds who don't. I mean, the question really is, how do I know if I don't like 50 Shades of Grey if I haven't tried 50 Shades of Grey? And have I tried, Vicky Cristina Barcelona? And how have I tried, Eat, Pray, Love? And have I tried, there are endless stories sold to us as romance. And, in the back of your mind, you're sort of like, yeah, I love that steady long-term relationship, but at the same time, I want all of those others at least once in my life.
Yes, but I think that we are able to kind of have enough of something to go, that was fun, but it didn't work.
Yeah.
Or, it was, oh my God, it was so exciting, but it left me feeling horrible afterwards, or it got old, or, I think there are certain things we don't have to run the experiment on everything to know that it's not right for us. We just have to run enough of an experiment.
That is absolutely the key. It's the experiment, and we don't even have to run it at all. We have to have an honest view of it, like someone who's not selling it to us, but telling us really what it was all about, right?
Right, and the trap that we get into is we can end up listening to the wrong people.
Correct.
We listen
or people selling it the wrong way.
Selling it the wrong way. Look, if you listen to, I'm not someone who's like some giant proponent of everyone should get married, but you'll get married or not get married depending on who you listen to. If you listen to, your 55-year-old guy friend who has sworn off of ever getting married and is dating as many people as possible and whatever, of course you're not going to get a great advertisement for marriage. He's defending his position. He's defending the position he's taken. The same is true of your married friends who want to defend the position they've had of being 20 years in a stale marriage, but they're still going, and they're like, you should get married. And you're like, well, yeah, but I don't want to be like you. It's
like amazing. It's amazing to be like me. It's really, I love it.
Yeah, I think that it's worth first getting advice from people who you trust. At the very least, you trust that they've found something that's really working for them.
Yeah, I think that, again, I'm going to say mathematics again. I think that the answer is to remove layers first, right? Is to tell yourself, I'm not in Monaco, I'm not driving in Monaco, I'm not going to take myself there. I'm in Cannes, I'm going to look at the parties in Cannes. And by the way, if the party is in open air, it's one that matches me, and if it's not, then I'm gonna not, right? And I call it the seasons, basically. Is to tell yourself it's okay to not know what I want, or to have what I want at this season of my life different than others. Yeah. But once you know what you want, that's the only layer you stay in.
Yeah, because you know yourself, you get to know yourself well enough. And by the way, it doesn't take you going to too many different countries to realize that the parties aren't that different.
They're exactly the same.
Okay, now I'm on a beach in Thailand and everyone's getting wasted. Okay, now I'm at Coachella and everyone's getting wasted. They're still drinking the same booze. Yeah. They're still human beings.
Yeah, and once everyone's wasted, they don't remember where they are anyway. So.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's not. We can't, you don't need to run the experiment 1,000 times. In fact, I think that one of the joys of travel is that the more you travel, the more you realize you find the same people everywhere you go.
Correct.
And I don't think you need to try every kind of person in the world to know that to some extent you'll find the same people everywhere you go. And the big point I was going to make is that at a certain point, when you're experiencing things, and I think people should experience things. I think people should try enough to know whether something works or doesn't. A friend of mine, Tanya Rad, a radio show host in the US, she said something recently in an interview I did with her, that she had listened to a lot of women around her that, you know, she's living in LA, people are dating a lot of her friends are hooking up a lot, and she was kind of being told, like, you know, do what men do, go sow your oats, go do your thing. Like, if men do it, you can do it, you should do it. And she kept going out there and realizing that when she slept with someone outside of the context of a relationship, and by the way, I'm not puritanical about that. I don't care whether someone as long as you're safe and don't put yourself in a situation that could harm you. If you want to sleep with someone in 5 minutes, go for it. I don't have a dog in that fight. Mm-hmm. But for her, she realized, I feel horrible every time I do this. I'm around people who keep telling me, like, this is fun. We're in our 20s. We're sleeping around. We're doing this. For her, it wasn't fun. She was doing it. She wasn't righteously saying, I'll never do that. She was trying it. And it wasn't working for her. It didn't feel good. And tuning into that part of ourselves, I think, is the most important thing we can do. Because for her, she then said, well, you know what, I'm going to have a commitment in my love life to say, unless it's actually in the context of a relationship, I don't want to go there with someone.
Yeah, people are different.
People are different, but you have to connect with what actually makes you happy. You know, if I just connect with everyone in Los Angeles who's building giant businesses, I would think that the way to happiness is to build the biggest business possible. Yeah. And I don't think that's going to make me happy. I don't think that's where happiness lies for me. It hasn't lied there for me so far. Yeah. Every time I get to a new level, it doesn't change how happy I am. So paying attention to that, and that does require some self-trust. And I think that's what a lot of people don't have in their lives, is trusting what feels good for me instead of blindly following what someone else has laid out as a formula for a happy life, whether it's marriage or whether it's staying single forever or whether it's being in an open relationship, or you know, know thyself. What's actually right for you?
I again, this is very profound. I think that the real key to finding love, in my personal view, is self-love. Is to be able to tell yourself, look, everything that's advertised to me is going to go through the filter of where am I in life? What have I tried before? What do I stand for? Does this sit well with me? Is it something I would like to try, or is it something I know for a fact I won't like, right? You know, and basically, before you, because I think the way you described it is fantastic. Everyone will advertise to you what makes them feel good about themselves, right? I am doing this, and I am not very sure if this is the best path for me. The more I collect people that belong to that same, tribe, the more I feel reassured that I'm doing the right thing, right? So her friends that are telling her, do this or that, are basically saying, if you, our wisest friend, belong to that as well, then that means we're wise, right? And I think the game I found in life is to be able, and it works both ways, by the way. So I am, for example, someone who was married for 27 years, had a very long, relationship, raised a couple of kids, and in a different stage of my life now, where honestly this matters to me very, very much, and accordingly, I sometimes question if love is on top of my priority list at all. Okay, if I can afford to put in the investment that you're talking about to be able to actually create that bond and that investment and so on. And even, Shelly, for example, if you don't mind me saying, is a wonderful, wonderful soul partner where we have so much going for us, but we're in different seasons, right? And I'm just traveling constantly and doing things constantly. And, there is a point where you tell yourself, even though everyone will tell you this is the right path, I found that there was a time in my life where what I'm doing is the right path, and what I'm doing might not be the best setup for that, right? It's that moment where you sit down, I believe, and say to yourself, look, there are 14 million possible varieties out there being advertised to me, but I am one of those two. and I will not listen to any of the others, and then I will invest my time looking for a partner, or you know, that is part of those two. And can I ask you what your view is on honesty and vulnerability? Because, you know, again, as I told you, one of the things that really got on my nerves is how someone who, for example, wants to start a family would not tell their potential partner, "Are you interested in kids?" until 8 months later. So how does that work? When is the right time to be super honest?
I think when it comes to big intentions like that, and some of it is age dependent, you know, if you're a younger person and you have plenty of time, and that's something you one day see on the horizon, but it's not something that's like immediate for you now, then it's not something that has to come up
right
soon.
now. Yeah.
If you're in a place in your life where you're 35, you really want to have a family, you're already naturally, you have a sense of fear or anxiety, or at least caution that I don't have all the years in the world. Like right now, I have a window.
Yeah.
By the time I've met someone, got to know them,
Yeah. Started the process. Yeah.
it's already going to be some time before we get to that place. And I have to hope that by the time I get there, I will be in a place where I can do that biologically. So once you're honest with yourself about that, that's the key thing, is to start by being honest with yourself and how important something is to you. Then your primary concern is no longer whether you scare someone away. It's making sure you spend time with people who actually represent real potential. So from that place, I think you can go on, you can, as early as the first few dates, honestly, if you have, there's a way, there's knowing what you want to communicate, and then there's competence communicating it.
Correct.
If you're on a first date and you say to someone, you know, so when are you looking to have kids? Of course you're going to frighten them. Even if they want kids, you're going to frighten them.
Yeah, that interview style doesn't work.
It doesn't, it's immediate pressure in the wrong way. And it also suggests that you don't necessarily have high standards because you're just looking for a target for that goal.
Yeah, exactly.
Not someone who has to live up to it.
Yeah, it's like, you know, get into the date, you get your checklist on the table and you go like, so do you want to have kids? Tick. Can you have kids? Tick.
Correct, correct. And that communicates the wrong message.
Yeah.
But if, you know, that friend of mine I was talking about, Tanya, she said she would always end up talking about her career a little bit because she'd done a lot in her life. And so when she started talking about her career, that would be a segue into her wider intentions. So she would say, you know, I've had a wonderful career and I've been able to do some amazing things. And it's allowed me to be in this stage of my life now where other things get to be more important. You know, I'm really excited about meeting someone, having a family. You know, having kids is something that it excites me greatly. I see my friends in that place in their lives, and I can't wait for that in my own life. She wouldn't be directing any of that
at you,
to that person.
Yeah.
It would be about her.
Yeah.
Whether he ended up being able to be a part of that or not was not a conversation for that moment, but the message was clear. This is where I'm going in my life. If you're not going there too, this is probably a waste of time. But she wasn't saying that. She was just expressing excitement about something that was genuinely exciting to her. Most people, when they're being honest in that way, don't express excitement, they express fear. And that fear is what scares someone away. So it's a change in the way that we deliver things. I had 2 women on my event once who both had been out the night before. And they both came in, they were both single mothers, but here's what was interesting. One woman said, Matt, how do I bring up? Where I was out last night, I was talking to people. I don't know how and when to bring up the fact that I have kids. And she really talked about it as a heavy thing. Like she had like Darth Vader waiting at home. And this other woman had been talking to someone the night before. Her question wasn't about her kids. She just wanted to tell a story. She just said, so last night I'm talking to a guy and I want to tell you, Matt, like what happened. The way I started talking to him was he had a chin dimple, and I said, your chin dimple is really cute. Like, it's not as cute as my daughter's cheek dimples, but it's cute.
Go. Yeah.
And she said, what do you think? I thought that was a fun, flirtatious line. I was like, absolutely was. And here's the difference. I have one person going, how do I bring up that I have kids? Like carrying this weight, this baggage. And another woman has somehow communicated that she has a daughter at home in the same line as she's flirting with, as she's using to flirt. So honesty is rarely the biggest factor. It's how we deliver the message. Yeah. Do we deliver it lightly from a place of positivity or excitement?
Exactly. Yeah.
Or do we deliver it from a place of like we're squinting because we're like, oh, I know when I say this,
he's going to run away.
Yeah, the moment you do that, people can smell that fear and they go, where is that coming from?
Yeah.
Why are you so afraid? Is it because you're desperately searching? And that makes me feel like I'm vulnerable, because if you're desperately searching, then maybe I can't trust you.
Yeah.
And all of that comes into play with that fear that we communicate. So starts with getting honest with ourselves, getting comfortable with our own wherever we're going in life, and then communicating that with ease, because it's not about them, it's about you.
I want to talk to you for another 4.5 hours, but I think I think we've had a lot for people to think about. Top tip to a happy relationship in your mind.
Well, I want to ask you that, because you were married a long time, so I want your answer to that.
I have an answer.
Can I hear you?
No.
I have to go first?
No, yeah.
I think that we all have the blind spot of trying to love someone in the way that we hope that they would love us.
Interesting.
And that backfires a lot, because that may not be what they need the most.
Correct. That's such an interesting tip.
I think we have to learn to love someone the way that they need to be loved, and figure out whatever is love to them. Love, by the way, to them. You know, some of the moments that I think are really gorgeous in my relationship with Audrey is when Audrey is like, hey, do you want me to, this is going to sound funny, but I take it as such an act of love and generosity. Audrey knows I'm more quiet than she is, and she knows that there are moments where we're apart and we joke, because she's like, do you miss me? And I'm like, I'm kind of enjoying tonight. I'm like on my own, and it's kind of nice. But we spend so much time together that she knows there's no offense taken when I say it. We just laugh, and I wind her up about it. But occasionally she'll be like, do you want me to see a friend tonight? Because I feel like it might be nice for you to have some time to yourself. That's not her loving me the way she wants to be loved. That's her loving me in a way that she's anticipating I might want to be loved right now. So, and I have my version of that with her. And I think that's a beautiful thing, is when we can do that. It really requires us to get out of ourselves and to not give what's easy for us to give because it comes naturally, but to give what perhaps is less natural for us to give, but is going to make the other person happy.
That's probably a top tip in my view, because the way my marriage lasted long, and the way I know it's not the same way in the Middle East anymore, but in the Middle East, when you go and visit someone, it's almost always expected that you'll take a gift, right? When they come visit you, they don't bring the same gift back. They bring back a different gift. Right? So you may go visit someone and you'll take with you a beautiful plant, and they'll come back with a box of chocolates, right? They love plants, you're into sugar, right? Whatever, it doesn't really matter. But the beauty of that relationship is that you thought deeply about what they needed or what they would enjoy, and you got them that. And in a very interesting way, of the relationships that I have found worked, it was mostly about, a little different than the Western way of how can I get what I need from this relationship, was always about how can I give what he or she needs in this relationship, expecting by definition that if I gave that, they'll search for and give me back what I need, or maybe we will talk about it, right? The challenge with that I found in most modern relationships is the fear of I'll spoil them. Like if I give them what they need and we haven't spoken about who's going to fulfill my needs, am I going to be disappointed? Am I going to be the giver and they're the taker and nothing is given back? How do you fix that?
That requires us to be brave enough to actually ask for what we want. And that is a real problem for so many of us, is that we are ashamed of our own needs. We don't feel worthy of our needs being met. We feel intensely uncomfortable, actually. We complain when they're not met, but we often feel intensely uncomfortable when they are met.
Yeah. Oh, yes, to receive them.
I've had conversations with people in my life about something that I'm not getting, and that has made me intensely resentful over time. And I've bottled it up, and I just it's really affecting the relationship. I'm putting distance between us now, and at a certain point I go, I have to speak up. I have to speak up about my resentment in this relationship, about what I'm not getting that I need. And then finally I speak up. And 5 minutes after speaking up, after my kind of righteous anger has subsided, I instantly feel guilty. I feel like I might have asked too much. I feel like I might have pushed that person away, or I feel like maybe they're not going to like me as much now, or God forbid they actually do the thing I'm asking.
Yeah, and then
I feel guilty that they've done it. Or I feel like, because the truth is, for many of us, especially the people pleasers among us, especially the people that have learned to tend to other people's needs and not their own, the hard part is that we are more comfortable in the role of the complainer than we are in the role of the receiver. Because there's a safety in being the one who's complaining about not getting enough in the relationship.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so hard done by, they never do this, and they never do that, whatever. That's a safe role to play, especially if we've been playing it our whole lives.
Yeah.
And we probably get some significance from that.
Yeah.
For martyring ourselves in the relationship.
Yeah.
I do so much. But to be an equal requires us to be comfortable playing a different role.
Yeah.
And if we're not used to that role, and that doesn't represent safety to us, the irony is that a more abject situation can represent safety more than being in a place of equals represents safety, because we don't know if we can hold on to that, or we don't know if we can play at that level, or we don't know if we're worthy of it. We've never had it before. Maybe I don't deserve it. That represents incredible insecurity. And so we have to first step back and say, if I'm really worried about spoiling this person, that's not me worrying that I'm spoiling them. It's me worrying that I am not going to be brave enough to stand up for what I really need. And it's not them I don't trust, it's me.
So spot on, I believe. I mean, in a very interesting way, I think it all goes back to the way you communicate, right? So it all goes back to the way you also love yourself and believe and feel that what you're asking for is fair and that you deserve it. My tip?
Please.
Yeah, my tip is that love and romance goes through waves and seasons again. So if you're with someone that you love, there's always that honeymoon period and the excitement, and there is always the like Esther Perel says, there is the desire for adventure and the desire for stability. I believe that recognizing those two is very important, and when you get into a stage where stability matters, I found that what really works is a project outside of the relationship that both feel passionately about. Something, like we're both interested in helping children in Africa, or we're both interested in raising our own children, or we're both interested in this little cafe that we started together. I found that when people in relationships have the, that third objective that is not just the relationship, that they get into a stable relationship that is motivated with a purpose that's a little more than just keeping the relationship alive. And I found in my experience that when that objective dies out, unless you start another startup, sometimes you start to struggle a little bit.
So, and the objective has to be one that's collective.
Absolutely. So, and one that is not, sort of created for the purpose of it, but sort of like both sides are passionate about it. I think this is the reason why most arranged marriages with children will last very long, because the objective is bigger than the relationship itself. So the one that taught me this was Lynn Twist, if you know her, one of the most renowned fundraisers for charity in history. Married for 55 years when I hosted her here on Slo Mo. And I asked her, and I said, Lynn, what makes you last 55 years in a loving, happy marriage? And she said, because we both are interested in something bigger than our relationship. So when we are talking about, children in Africa needing something, and we both so passionately believe that we can make a difference, keeping the toilet seat up or down doesn't become such a big problem anymore. And, I found that quite profound, actually. It doesn't have to be something as big as that, but it could be something as simple as, hey, we're going together to that vacation in summer, and we're so passionate about making it amazing, and it's our project for the next 6 months to make that thing amazing. But it's that idea of being able to collectively work on something that both sides are passionate about. That's, it's my podcast. I'm not supposed to be the one talking. So
I think it's profound and it's important, and it really. There's something really, really fascinating about that, because it's almost, for me, when I picture it, I'm like, if you spend all of your time staring at each other,
eventually there is not much more to stare at.
But if you're both pointed at something, staring at that together,
and holding hands
side by side, very beautiful, very beautiful. I love that advice.
I love every advice you gave, honestly. I mean, you're so chill and cool about it, and it's so profound in so many ways. I think the undertones of how you describe getting to know yourself, really accepting yourself, and then looking out in the world, not at this as a roulette, but rather than a deliberate act to make love stories, not receive them or not find them or not stumble on them. I think that's a very profound way of looking at it.
Thank you for having me, Mo.
You're the
really.
best, man. Thank you so
Such
much
a pleasure.
Here. Yeah, and for all of you joining us, I loved this so much. And I knew someday Matthew and I will meet, but because you guys listened to the podcast, we met earlier and closer. And I'm absolutely certain that we'll be meeting very, very frequently. Wonderful human being, wonderful mission, wonderful insight into it, very humble but very effective. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I hope you enjoyed that we let it go a little longer than we normally do, because I think it's a topic that is worthy of slowing down. Either way, whatever you're doing this week, find yourself an hour. Don't lie to yourself. There's always an opportunity and a little bit of time to slow down. I love you all for listening, and I will see you next time.